My name's Ethan Walker, and I've never been the loudest person in the room. I grew up believing that respect didn't need to be shouted. It showed itself in how you treated people when nobody was watching. But somewhere along the way, the world forgot that lesson, especially the people who mistake silence for weakness. It started at work. I've been with the same company for 7 years, a marketing agency in Chicago. I'm the kind of guy who just gets things done, early in, laid out, no drama. But lately there's been someone who treats quiet like it's an open invitation to walk all over me. Her name's Megan Pierce. She's sharp, ambitious, and loud enough to fill every meeting with her voice. People like her climb fast in offices like ours, not because they're smarter, but because everyone can hear them trying. I used to ignore it, until the day she decided to make me her punchline. It was a Friday meeting, the weekly team review. The entire department was there, including Aaron, our director, who I'd worked with since day one. Megan was presenting some numbers, flashy slides, animated voice, all eyes on her. Then Aaron asked about a campaign we'd co-led last quarter, one where I'd done most of the back-end analytics. Before I could answer, Megan smirked and said, "Oh, Ethan, he's great at running numbers, but don't expect him to run a meeting." Everyone chuckled. Even Aaron cracked a grin. It wasn't what she said, it was how she said it. Like I was some harmless relic of the office, too quiet to matter. I smiled back. That's what people like me do, we let it pass. But something in me shifted that day. I went home that evening, replaying it in my head. Every laugh, every smirk, every condescending tone I'd swallowed over the years. My father's words came back to me. Respect doesn't demand attention, son, but it defends itself when tested. The following week, I didn't change overnight. I just started paying attention. Megan thrived on control, interrupting, steering conversations, owning moments. So I began letting her set the stage for her own undoing. On Wednesday, she called for an impromptu brainstorming session. "Let's hear everyone's ideas for the new client pitch," she said, already scribbling her own on the whiteboard. People threw in a few thoughts. I listened, quietly noting her assumptions. When she started mocking one of the interns for suggesting something too basic, I stepped in, gently. "Actually," I said, "I think Alex's idea has potential. The simplicity's the strength. It's clear, scalable, and aligns with what the client emphasized. Authentic storytelling." She blinked, caught off guard. The room shifted. Eyes moved from her to me. I wasn't loud. I was certain. For the rest of that meeting, Megan didn't interrupt me once. It wasn't revenge, just balance. But fate wasn't done testing me yet. The next week, we had our big quarterly presentation. Clients, executives, full room. Megan and I were co-presenting again. Right before we went up, she leaned over and whispered, "Don't freeze this time, okay?" With that same polished smirk, I didn't reply. Just smiled. She went first, as always. Power stance, hand gestures, a voice that filled the hall. But the numbers were off. She'd used the wrong projection model, overstating returns by nearly 15%. Aaron's brow furrowed. Megan faltered. When it was my turn, I calmly stepped forward, clicked to my slide, and said, "Just to clarify the revenue model, there was a small calculation difference in the previous estimate. Here's the corrected version." Then I explained, clearly, concisely, without ever mentioning her name. The tension in the room evaporated. People were nodding. Even Aaron smiled approvingly. When I finished, Megan tried to add something, but the silence that followed her words was heavier than anything I'd heard before. No one laughed. No one smirked, and that was when I realized dignity doesn't shout. It echoes. After that presentation, something changed in the office air. People who used to overlook me started greeting me differently, more deliberate, more respectful. Even Aaron asked me to lead the next client strategy session. But the one person who couldn't seem to make peace with the shift was Megan. For the next few days, she was unusually quiet around me. No sarcasm, no subtle digs, just silence. I could sense her discomfort, like someone forced to see their reflection for the first time. And honestly, I didn't want revenge. I just wanted peace. But peace rarely comes without one last test. That Friday, we had a team lunch at a downtown restaurant. Everyone was laughing, relaxed, a few drinks in. Someone brought up the presentation. Aaron chuckled and said, "Ethan saved the day with those numbers. We'd have been in trouble otherwise." Megan gave a dry laugh. "Well, maybe next time we should double-check the data before the meeting." Her tone was sharp, coated in sugar. The table went quiet for half a second. Everyone looked at me, expecting me to let it slide again. But I didn't. I set my glass down and said calmly, "True, but that's why teams exist, right? We catch each other's mistakes before they become the company's problem." The smile faded from her lips. A few people nodded. Someone even said, "Exactly." The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, it was natural, the kind that comes when balance is restored. Megan didn't say another word for the rest of lunch. When we returned to the office, she stopped by my desk. Her tone was lower, steady. "Hey, about earlier. I might have come off a little harsh. Sorry if I crossed a line." I looked up, met her eyes. "It's fine, Megan, we all have our moments, and that was it. No long speech, no moral lesson. Just a quiet understanding that the ground had leveled. Over the next few weeks, things settled into a rhythm." She stopped trying to overshadow others. The interns she once mocked now spoke more freely. Sometimes she'd even ask my opinion during meetings, a small gesture but meaningful. One afternoon, as we walked out together, she said something I didn't expect. "You know, you're a hard person to read. I thought you were just passive. Turns out you were just patient." I smiled. There's a difference. That evening I walked home through the city, same streets, same cold wind, but something in me felt lighter. For years I'd confused silence with surrender. I thought keeping peace meant absorbing disrespect. But that day, I learned something important. Silence only has power when it comes from confidence, not fear. Megan never tried to put me down again, and I never needed to raise my voice to prove anything. A few months later, Aaron left for a new company and recommended me as his replacement. When HR announced my promotion, Megan was the first to congratulate me. Her handshake was firm, and for the first time her smile was genuine. That's the strange thing about life. Sometimes people only hear you once you stop trying to be heard. When you speak calmly, after years of silence, the echo carries farther than anger ever could. Looking back, that entire experience taught me more about strength than any self-help book or seminar ever could. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't humiliate, it doesn't retaliate, it balances. It corrects wrongs with composure, not chaos. When I think of that Friday lunch, I still remember the laughter fading into silence, the exact moment dignity walked into the room and took its seat at the table. Not because I demanded respect, but because I finally acted like someone who already had it. And since then, I've made it a rule. If someone tries to make a joke at your expense, let them. Let them finish the punchline. Then wait just long enough for the room to quiet down. Because that's when truth does its work. Calmly, clearly, completely.